We were on the last day of questioning of the undercover police officer Mark Jenner, who was deployed undercover as Mark Cassidy between 1995 and 2000, infiltrating the Colin Roach Centre, Anti-Fascist Action, Independent Working Class Association, Red Action, Building Workers Group, numerous campaigns for police accountability and justice. He also deceived a woman called Alison into a relationship for 5 years whilst being married with children to a woman called S. This is the third day of his questioning. I'm joined by Dave Smith from Blacklist Support Group.
Hello.
Overnight, he appears to have had a bit of a change of heart. What we heard him say yesterday, though he's been equally callous, he has been a lot more forthcoming about some of the facts. What do you make of what he's had to say?
I'm wearing a Christmas jumper, and we've seen the true spirit of Christmas just appear. If this was a TV, Christmas drama, it would have been the redemption scene where he wanted it to be the redemption scene.
He wanted to be, certainly.
Yeah.
I mean, I think in many ways
he's only human after all. That was
yeah.
literally one of his lines.
Yeah.
I mean, at some point, I thought he was going to start singing the song, sort of thing. It's like.
I mean, he basically, we opened up with him admitting to something that he'd been evasive about yesterday, about the fact that he had, in fact, been the person who made the floor plan that was misleading about the reality of his cohabiting. He said that he'd informed a number of other undercover officers about the fact that he was cohabiting with Alison. That Bob Lambert came to know that he had a full and frank discussion with Bob Lambert about it.
Well, I thought this was, quite honestly, the bit where I'm not quite sure what happened. At the beginning of the conversation, it was like, oh, barely anybody knew, and I time-stamped it because we've got this 10-minute delay. We're not allowed to. So I wrote down at 12:10, he said, oh, only 3 officers knew. Only 3 officers knew about it. And then by 12:22, it turned out there were all 3 officers and Bob Lambert. Oh, and there was other Jim Boylan as well. He was making jokes about it. And there was a few other officers who actually saw me at various events with Alison, so realised we were a couple. Oh, and the sergeant as well was making jokes about it. And it's like, and at the end he said, can you, I'll tell you what, Barr stops him and says, okay, let's do us a favour. Can you write down a list of all of the officers and all of the managers and all of the sergeants who knew anything about, knew about your relationship with Alison, which, he didn't say, which literally just a couple of minutes ago you said barely anyone knew about. And it took 7 minutes for him to write the names down. And it was like everyone in the room was going, what's going on? It's like, I think Barr had to say something midway through, just in case people at the other end watching it live thought the volume had gone down or something. It was odd.
Yeah, I mean, he referred to it as an open secret. He said that they never talked explicitly about the actual sex, but I mean, by that I think he just means the physical act. I mean, every other aspect of the cohabiting was talked about quite frankly, it would appear. We were shown this document that was apparently his year in review, and it talks about the fact that he had changed his living situation to be living with activists, and it talks quite glowingly about this as being a more effective way of infiltration, and once you decode it to know that the people involved are aware.
This is the point. It's just when you read it, it looks very sort of, oh look, this is all just right and proper. But the report is written by Bob Lambert, who was
red flag,
who previously, of course, for anyone watching this for the very first time, is the undercover boss who had children,
see 4 women, child undercover.
While undercover, and Lambert is now, Jenner's manager, and they're doing their interview with him. He writes it all up, and then Barr says to him, but he knows about this and he's written it up in a certain way. Isn't this just code? Isn't this just code that everybody knows what he's saying, but he's just writing it in a certain way so it doesn't sort of, make things worse, kind of thing. And Jenner says, yeah, that's exactly what he's doing. And in the report, it says, I think the last paragraph it returned to in it, he says, I was thanked for this discussion and hoped that managers within SDS would now have an open and frank discussion about this element of deployment, and the element of deployment being that being
in a relationship with an activist, basically.
Yeah. There's a there was so many bits that were jaw dropping in it. I mean, I did you go on these holidays? Yes, I did go on a 3-week holiday to Israel with Alison, but the only reason I took it is because the SDS managers were moaning about taking annual leave, and if I didn't take my annual leave, there'd be a problem. So rather than going on annual leave with his wife and his family, he went on annual leave with Alison for 3 weeks.
So he claims that basically in 1995 he went on a family holiday for 10 days. He said it was a disaster. He blames this on his undercover persona. He said exfiltrating himself for just that short period of time to spend time with his family was excruciating. And then he made the decision that if he had to take his annual leave, which he was being pressured to do, that he was going to do that with Alison. And he needed a break, so he would go on holiday with her. He started off by saying, oh, yes, this trip to Israel. Then he was said that there's this whole list of holidays. He didn't dispute any of them. He says, it's all true. He went on all these holidays. And I mean, the trip to Israel, I mean, he's talking about the trip to Israel, quite fantastical. Obviously, I'm sat next to Alison, and she was like, I don't know what the hell he's on about. What the lies? I mean, he claimed that nobody in the hospitals in Israel spoke English, which is like just not believable. It's not the case. He talked about an incident.
There was a rocket attack and gunships and helicopter gunships and all the rest of it.
Which apparently Alison has no memory of. I mean, this was in the mid-90s. Supposedly they were camping near the Lebanese border. Apparently they went to the Golan Heights. I mean, like, the area is a war zone. Israel is an imperialist genocidal state. But, like, I don't believe that his story about what he witnessed that day. I mean, it just doesn't sound credible in any sense. But there was... It ended up, the upshot of it was that when he came back, he was obviously not well. He got ill while he was away, and he gave this fantastical story to the SDS. I think maybe he's invented this story then, and then it's become part of his memories. But the upshot of it was that Bob Lambert now knew about the fact that he was going on these holidays. Previously, he tried to keep it hidden, and from then on, Bob Lambert was fully aware of whatever he was doing. He said he didn't inform him about particular holidays, but Bob Lambert was aware that he did that sort of thing. That that he was going to be using his cover passport to travel abroad on holidays with his target, the target that he was living with. He had other targets as well. God, there was so much in there, wasn't there?
Well, I mean, there's bits that will make the news at some point if the mainstream media pick this up at all. Once again, we have to make this point. It's not about being puritanical.
Not at all.
It's not about being puritanical. Lots of people have affairs. Lots of people have, relationships like this. The issue is that there's one point where David Barr, the counsel for the inquiry, asks him directly a question. You're telling us you were in love with your wife, S. But you were having a 5-year relationship, sexual relationship, cohabiting relationship with Alison. How do you square that? And his answer was, that was my job. That was what I was paid to do. Yeah. And it's like, whoa. I mean, how blunt do you want it?
He said he felt he couldn't finish it earlier because it was too advantageous to his deployment.
Literally, literally the reason why he didn't do it is because he carried on. At one point, he said, "You're deceiving her." He said, "Oh yes, this is entirely deception." I mean, there was a big long list of, you were well fed, you were living in a nice flat, you were getting regular sex, you were going on holiday. She told you love you. This is all deception. Yes, all deception while you're being paid overtime by the Metropolitan Police. Yes. It's like, oh, for God's sake, man.
So you were effectively being paid to deceive her both emotionally and physically. Yes.
Yeah.
He didn't hold back. I mean, he was very, very clear. He claimed that he came to love her himself, which I think was, it's just an offensive thing to hear. He talked about how difficult it had been for him to exfiltrate. He said it was hellish. He said it was excruciating to leave Alison and go back to his loving wife and family. The change between the two was very difficult. He said that he felt every time she tried to get in contact with him, he felt worse. And he said he only really got any relief when he finally heard her on the radio, being interviewed on Radio 4, and she mentioned as part of the interview that she'd since got married and had children. And he said he felt better about it then. But otherwise, he felt dreadful about the whole thing. And
it was at that point the counsel for the inquiry asks him, because they've talked to each other by telephone. Once Alison's evidence, she called him up and talked to him by telephone, and Barr says to him, you know, talks about this telephone conversation. He said, "Did you apologise to her?" And he said, "No, no." He said, "Would you like to take the opportunity to apologise to Alison now for what you did?" He said, big pause. "No, not in a public inquiry. If she wants to come and talk to me privately, then maybe, but I'm not going to do it in a public inquiry." So, I mean, it's like, you know, there's your opportunity, mate. And you've just like,
I mean, he was asked, "Are you sorry?" And he said, "It was a terrible thing. It was a cruel thing to do."
yeah.
I mean, just horrendous. And we've just been given a signal. They're going back in. I can't imagine it's going to be that late. We'll probably do one more video today before the hearing ends. Well, it depends how it goes, but that's what I'm imagining. All right. Cheers for joining. Bye for now.
Merry Christmas.